Down low, let your roots reach and grow. Touch your feet to the earth. Get up in between the dirt now. Get lifted by the wind. Release it all from within. Don't stop till it's time to get yours. Cause I'ma get mine. Let's live, let's love.
So Paul, first off, I just want to thank you for taking the time out of your busy schedule to join us on our podcast. Our podcast here is Ganas Network, and honestly, I was pretty excited to tell my partner Romero about you and some of the accomplishments that you've been able to do. I got a chance to meet you through a direct sales company at one point, and I've always been following you, and I've been seeing all the things that you've been doing, and it's pretty incredible to see the journey that you've gone through from when I met you to where you're at now. And, it's amazing the people that you're helping, the success that you're currently having. And what we wanted to do was kind of get an idea, Paul, of exactly what it is that inspired you to become the person that you are today. But before we get into that, Paul, can you just introduce yourself and tell us exactly where you're from originally?
Yeah, absolutely. And thanks again, Pablo, for the opportunity. And I follow you on Facebook as well. It's kind of interesting how we all do that. I get a number of comments where people have said, I've been following you. I kind of see what you're doing, and I do the same. It's great to see your business and what you do and how you help people in your specific business. I like seeing the stories of people improving their credit scores and getting their homes and that kind of good stuff. So good job to you as well. Alrighty, so you wanted to know a little bit about my background, what brought me here to the US?
That is correct, sir. Well, first off, where are you from?
I'm from England. I'm from the northwest of England, a town called Blackburn, which is in the industrial northwest, close to big towns or cities like Manchester and Liverpool. So that's, people think of the Beatles and that kind of stuff. So that's where I'm originally from.
So, Paul, are you a Man U fan?
Absolutely not. Nope. I'm a Blackburn Rovers fan, born and bred in Blackburn. So, Blackburn and Manchester. Blackburn and Burnley are the biggest rivals, and then Blackburn and Manchester United will be the next biggest rivals.
Right. Oh, so you're loyal to your hometown, huh? Very
yes,
nice.
Absolutely. Having said that, my oldest son, he's named after a Norwegian soccer player that made his name at Manchester United. So the famous Ole Gunnar Solskjaer, my oldest son is called Gunnar after that particular player.
Very cool.
Wow, that's real cool.
Yeah.
So Paul, you were born out there in the UK, and let me ask you this question: when did you come out to the United States?
I originally came out here in 1988. I was at university in Scotland, a university called Aberdeen University, and I came out to the University of Illinois as a foreign exchange student. So I did my junior year at the U of I in Champaign-Urbana, and I played for the U of I soccer team that year, the year I was there. So that brought me out here from 88 to 89, went back to England, graduated from Scotland, a university in Scotland in 1990, and then got a real job in financial services. And my passion has always been soccer or football. And on my 27th birthday, I went to a soccer coaching clinic. And all of a sudden, the light bulb went off. I never made it as a pro, but I played a decent standard as a college player and I signed semi-pro when I was 16. But I never made it as a professional player. But I enjoyed the game and was always the captain or the vice captain on the pitch when I was playing. So when I realized there was a possibility to coach soccer, I started doing that, and that became my passion. So I decided I wanted to do that full time, and I did pretty good in England at coaching soccer and had an agent, and an agent contacted me one Monday morning and said, how do you fancy America? And I said, sounds good. Where? And he said, how do you fancy California? I said, sounds even better. Where? And he said, how do you fancy Lake Tahoe? And I said, I have no idea what it's like, but I hear it's, I've never been. I hear it's beautiful. When do I start? And he said, next Monday.
Wow.
So that was 1996. I was on a flight July 15th, 1996, and I got a job at the Squaw Valley Soccer Camp to work there just for your typical summer soccer camp there for 6 weeks.
Wow.
And that was 1996, and 20 years later, I'm still here.
Wow. So you came over here because you were given an opportunity to coach a summer league for soccer.
Coach at a summer soccer camp, yes.
Wow. So once you got here, what obviously you I'm sure you had the option to go back, or
Mm-hmm.
was this something that was permanent?
Well, the great story is at the beginning of my 6-week coaching, when I beginning of my 6-week coaching, when I thought, oh man, I'm going to have to go back to England, a kid from the previous week at the camp had come back down here to LA, lived in La Cañada, and his club, a big club in LA, he was playing for the under-19 boys, and their coach quit to take a big job in Texas, coaching soccer in Texas, so they were freaking out. They had a big tournament at UC Irvine, no coach, and they didn't know what to do. So this 15-year-old kid said, hey, I've just been at Squaw Valley Soccer Camp, and there's this English coach here, and he gave me a glowing reference, and I got a call, and they said, can you come down and work here for a week, put the team through the NHB Cup, and we'll go from there. So I flew down from Tahoe down here, stayed in La Cañada, took the team to the NHB Cup at UC Irvine for Labor Day weekend. And that's what helped me stay here for the rest of the year. And then in January 97, I went back up to Northern California and I started my own soccer school. And I built that up to indoor soccer arena, two soccer stores, a gym, indoor leagues, outdoor leagues. About $1 million a year turnover. So I went from coaching soccer at Squaw Valley Camp to a $1 million a year business.
Wow, that's very impressive, Paul. So let me ask you this question. So, I know you're a best-selling author, and obviously, in order to run a business that's generating in excess of $1 million, you got to have some type of a skill, which we all know would be the sales skill, the people skills. Obviously, you came from a coaching background. You were in love with your passion, and you pursued your passion, and were given an opportunity to come into this country, to pursue that passion. Yep. And then you decided to start this business. How were you able to convert the mindset and generate over $1 million a year in revenue?
It was interesting. It was like a hobby, basically. So I started with a soccer clinics, after school clinics, and then Saturday mornings, and then saw an opportunity to provide some adult leagues. So I did an adult league on a Saturday afternoon and on a Sunday. And soccer is soccer. Everyone plays soccer. Everyone wants to play soccer. And the great thing about that sport is no matter what age or ability or level of fitness, there's some way you can play. So I was bringing parents into the game that kids had played for 10 years, but they'd never played in themselves in their life. And I was also putting leagues together for, men and women that had played college and were wanting to keep playing. So I had a whole range of camps, clinics, leagues for kids and adults. And it was like a hobby. It really was. I'm like, okay, well, let's see if I can get an adult league going on a Saturday afternoon. And I, like you do in a small business, I found the teams, got the field ready, refereed the games, dealt with the fights, gave the trophies out, swept up at the end of the day, did the whole thing as you do as a new business owner. And then it started growing and started getting more serious. But the irony is, and I think this happens a lot to entrepreneurs, I took my passion, my hobby, and built it into a business. And then it became a business, and it was no fun anymore. Because I would go into I had an arena that was about 1 acre in size, 44,000 square feet. And I would go into my building, and there'd be 2 soccer games going on. There'd be people in the store. There'd be all this activity and music playing, and it was great. but I couldn't enjoy it because if I was refereeing the game or coaching, I was always thinking, you know, did those people pay for that Gatorade? Is someone stealing out of my store?
Yeah, just like
What's going on in the restroom? You know, so all those stresses were there, and it was so ironic that I ended up where I didn't enjoy it anymore.
Wow. And that can happen, at times when you pursue your passion and it turns into a business, some people can burn themselves out. So was this a one-man show the entire time? Did you have some help, hired some help as you grew, obviously?
Yeah, I ended up with a staff of about 35. I ended up with a couple of business partners as it grew. And then one of my business partners approached me one day and he said, I've been talking to my brother. We'd love to bring this business in house. We know it's your business, it's your baby, but would you consider selling your part of the business to us and we could take it over? And I just literally got a piece of paper and a pen and I wrote a number down and I gave it to him. I said, if your brother comes up with that, I'll do it.
Really?
And literally the day after he came back, he said he'll do it. And within a half a second, I shook hands, and that was the end of 10 years of 10 years of work right there and then.
Wow,
and I've never stepped in that building since.
Oh my goodness! And do you ever follow it? Does it still exist? Is that business still around?
Yes, doing very well. I've seen it. I see it every now and then on Facebook, and but I've never been anywhere near it since.
Wow. So take me through this. So take me through the mindset now of you sold your passion, your business that you built yourself from the ground up. You sell it to a group of investors, and what's the next step for Paul at this moment? What does he decide to do?
It was great. I actually went into probably the happiest time of my life. I'd sold the business. I was 39 years old, started dating a 26-year-old beautiful girl that I'd known for many years. Life was good. And I got the opportunity to coach a Cal State University up in Northern California. It was kind of a funny story. Similar to my first coaching here, the coach had quit just before the season had started. Literally, the Hell Week or preseason was about to start. They had no coach. So I said, I'll do it. The team was like the Bad News Bears. We literally were horrific. But I had a great time. I didn't have a care in the world. I was back on the pitch 7 days a week. And we ended up doing very well towards the end of the season, completely turned the team around by the end of the season. I had a great time, an amazing time. And then the girl I was dating, then I got a job offer further up in Northern California. A city had just built a $12 million soccer complex. And they invited me up there, and they offered me the job to run this 4 full-size outdoor fields. They basically said, "We built it. It's yours. You can run it however you want. It's your baby. There it is. Here's a $12 million facility." So that was exciting. And then, happy wife, happy life. My girlfriend at the time, she was raised down here in LA, so she said, "Well, let's take a look at LA as well. Let's see what opportunities are there." Came down here, and I could tell instantly that she was going to be happier down here, and I think I was going to be happier down here. So I said, you know what, let's just come down to LA. I'll get a job coaching soccer again somehow. And within a week of coming down here, I was hired as a head men's soccer coach at Whittier College.
Wow, that's awesome.
Yeah, NCAA school. So again, straight into soccer. Same story all over again. It's kind of funny. I was the 5th coach hired in 5 years by that school. So the program was in complete disarray. This is a true story. But my girlfriend, who became my wife, who unfortunately became my ex-wife, she played college soccer. She coached college soccer as well.
Really? Wow.
So I inherited this team. I literally, again, like a movie, I basically found out all the people that were coming into school that year. I didn't have time to recruit. And I basically found anybody that had played soccer or had a soccer ball kicked in their backyard somehow. So I got a player that was a tennis player. I got a lacrosse player. I got a cross-country player. And I just basically said, have you played soccer before? Yes, I played a little bit of club. I played in high school. Great, you're on the team. That's all I could do for a season. So we get together August 25th for pre-season Hell Week, whatever you want to call it. And I've only got about 16 or 18 players. Bring them in. I said, all right, lads, let's just get a ball out. Let's just play. Let's see what we've got here. So I throw the ball out on the pitch. They start a little scrimmage. And my girlfriend sat in the bleachers. I turned around and look at her, and I said, do you still have any eligibility left? She said, I've got a year's eligibility. I said, you're going to be playing for this team, and so am I. And we literally thought we were going to have to enroll in the school so that me at 40 and her at 27 would be playing for the men's soccer team. It was that bad.
Really? Wow.
Yes, so it was unbelievable. So then we play our first conference game. I'm going up against a guy called Dan Kalichman, who used to be the captain of the LA Galaxy.
Oh, wow.
He played for the U.S. men's national team. He was the first ever U.S. player to play professionally in Japan. He built his program up at his school for eight years. And I go out there with my team of Bad News Bears, and at halftime we're getting beat 6-0.
Wow.
And this is the first conference game of an entire season. And again, my girlfriend's in the bleachers, and at halftime I turned to her and I said, start the car. She said, what? I said, if you start the engine of the car right now, I'm going to start walking backwards nice and slowly and quietly. We can get in the car and we never need to come back ever again. And she's like, you got to stay the hell there and fix this. I'm like, okay, fair enough. So that was my first conference game at NCAA soccer. We ended up getting beat 8-0 in that game. And it was going to be a long season.
That's an awesome story, man. That's crazy. So let me ask you this question, Paul. So okay, at this point you're coaching the Whittier College soccer team.
Mm-hmm.
And how did you evolve into the world of sales? Because I know you also have a background where you've sold in excess of over $30 million in telephone sales. Mm-hmm. And I'm curious to know how did that come about?
But again, it's a great story. So, head coach at Whittier College, I was the only coach in the conference that the job wasn't full time. Every other coach in that conference were all full time positions. And at Whittier, I was the fifth coach in 5 years to be hired, so it was part time, temporary. It paid maybe it was $10,000 for the season, something like that. I can't remember. I think it was $10,000 for the season. So that's not enough money to live off. So my girlfriend had got a job. She's an architect, so she got a job at St. John's Hospital in Santa Monica. So I said, okay, I'm going to go on Craigslist. I'm going to find a job. We only had one car between us. I said, I've got to find some kind of sales job that you can drop me off in the morning, go to your real job and earn real money, pick me up on the way home, and if I can earn us $500 a week on top of what you're earning for us, then it's gravy and we'll be fine. So I went on Craigslist and I'm looking through these jobs, commission only jobs, and I saw one. I said, well, the only reason I picked this job was it was on the way to where she worked and it was commission only. I figured, well, commission only, I could probably make some good money at that if I'm any good. And the goal, as I said, was drop me off in the morning, pick me up at night. If I can earn $500 a week, bingo, that's good stuff. Well, I started doing that job and I realized, oh man, there's some good money being made here. And over a 5-year period, and I'm not saying this to brag, I'm just letting you know this is how I ended up writing the book. The $500 a week that I was aiming to earn ended up being an average of $27,000 per month. So I just happened to be in a position that I was pretty good at and made good money.
Wow. And so you found this job and at first you're hoping, hey, if I can do $500 a month, or $500 a week will be okay. Mm-hmm. And what exactly ended up happening while what made you, I guess, what was the turning point where you said, hey, you know what, I'm actually pretty good at this?
Well, I went into an office, and there was people making big money in there, and that helps. It gives you some belief that you're like, wow, there's there's some good money being made in here. So what I did, I decided to work my tail off, do everything I could to improve my skills. But what I did, and this is what I think was key, I basically looked at all the people that were doing really, really well, and I studied them and learned from them. And I just picked a little piece from each one. I was a bigger sponge in the office, and I just picked a little piece from each one and said, all right, wow, that's good what Maury says. Stephanie does really good at this. I learned something really good from Paul there. This is great from Gino. Charlie's amazing at this part. So I basically made a pie or a soup of all the ingredients of all these people, what they were doing well, and I added my personality in there and what my strengths were, and basically just learned from these people who were doing well, and just incorporated that into what I was doing. And I did a lot of work on mindset, and I looked at it as, I went in with the attitude, hey, $500 a week is great, to all of a sudden, oh man, I could do amazing at this, so I'm going to go all out and do whatever I can to do this, and that's what I did.
So, question: you said you worked on the mindset. Obviously, being an athlete and coming from the background of coaching, that's something that's very important that you got to pass on to your players and to your students, just for them to have a certain mindset. But when you enter into the sales force or into the sales world, what kind of things were you working on as far as mindset is concerned?
Well, it's going to sound all, what's the word, metaphysical now, and all woo-woo stuff, what I'm going to say. But I was introduced to, when was it, 2006? Yeah, 2006 is when the movie The Secret came out. And good friends of mine and my ex-wife, actually family of hers, introduced us to The Secret. And my ex-wife and I just said, you know what, let's just go for this. Let's just immerse ourselves into this with nothing else to do, with nothing else to, let's just go for it. If they say we have to if The Secret says wear blue socks, we'll wear blue socks. We'll do whatever it says. And we weren't doing it wasn't in a religious way or a cult way or a crazy spiritual way. We just figured, you know what, let's just do this.
Right.
So I must have listened to or watched that about 100 times at least, always out on the iPod when I was running, working out, walking the dog, whatever. I was just filling my brain with it. And then, okay, so where did The Secret come from? What's the peel back the layer of the onion? What's the next level of that? And then that became Esther Hicks and Abraham. And so just every book, video, tape, just totally immersed myself into that. What's the next level behind that? And that was Jane Roberts and Seth. And I'm still working into that right now. So I basically really got into law of attraction. Again, some people think it's nuts. I don't really care. It worked for me. So I got into that in a big way. That made a huge difference. I passed on that to some of my players. One of my players in our second year there had a really horrific leg break, potentially career-ending injury, and I'd introduced The Secret a little bit to him, and he immersed himself into that, and he still says today that helped him recover, and he ended up playing again. And so I really got into that, and I posted on Facebook a couple of days ago, if you noticed, that I kind of, when you start having success, you get a little bit complacent, you stop doing the things that got you there in the first place. And I got a little bit of a wake-up call this week that I need to get back to doing that again, and listening and reading and studying, and that's what I've started to do again right away this week.
So Paul, your first exposure to, I guess, the law of attraction or personal development, I guess, was The Secret.
Well, personal development, no, I'd read, the Zig Ziglar stuff. When I came here in 96 and I'd started work here coaching soccer, I got the whole personal power cassettes from Anthony Robbins. So I'd done a lot of personal development before, but I'd never been introduced to the law of attraction. So that's when that happened.
Wow. And you said you went from hoping to make $500 a week to at one point you were making up to $27,000 a month.
Well, I averaged 27,000 a month for 5 years on the run.
Wow, that's incredible. How did that like what was how long did it take for you to go from $500 to $27,000 a month?
Um, it was relatively quick because the environment I was in was a good environment to do that, and people worked together and helped each other, and I had some really good mentors and really good people to learn from. So it was part of it was right place at the right time, no question. But it didn't take that long to get up to those, and a belief kicks in. You start earning good money, and you continue to earn good money, and you test yourself how much more you can do, and yeah, it was consistent for 5 years once I got going.
So from making $500 to $27,000 a month, how did that make an impact in your lifestyle?
Well, it was interesting. We were very, very modest. We didn't go out buying Ferraris and anything crazy like that. We got married and we had babies and all that kind of stuff. So it was nice to, have no financial challenges whatsoever. Pay off the wife's student loans and all that kind of good stuff. So, but we didn't do anything crazy. We were very sensible, and we're building a base as a young family, and that's what we did.
And what kind of things did you do when at this point in your life? I mean, did you look for other ways to invest your money in, or what kind of things did you do with that kind of money? I mean, when you're making that and the reason I asked this question is, we both have a lot of friends that probably generate 20, 30, $40,000 a month. Unfortunately, if you're not familiar with how to manage that kind of money, you think it's always going to come in,
Mm-hmm.
and the lifestyle that some of these guys choose to live,
Mm-hmm.
sometimes they're not the smartest or the brightest with that money.
Right.
They don't look for someone to guide them to invest, or they don't, they just want to live life to the fullest.
Right.
What kind of things would you say that you did, that allowed for you to live a humble life that was also consistent with your beliefs?
Well, we just, when you're in a commission-only sales environment, you literally don't know what your next paycheck's going to be like, so you can't assume that you're always going to make big money. So, we had a goal of a certain amount of money in the checking account and a certain amount of money in the savings account, and we hit those goals, and we started building up a nice reserve there. Like I said, we paid off student loan for my wife at the time, and we didn't want to go crazy, and we didn't do. We just kept it real. We had kids, so we were having babies, and that's expensive, as you know. And but yeah, we didn't. We didn't. I'm trying to think of the cars. We had a BMW X5 that we bought used, and in fact, like I say, we only had one car probably for 2 years. We only had one car between us. We didn't need two cars, and we just. When it was kind of funny when it came to the Whittier season, I would rent a car for the season.
Wow, that's incredible.
Yeah, because we didn't need to. We worked next to each other, and then once we had the first baby and stuff, and then my wife was staying at home with the baby, then we got a car. But again, we didn't. I think we had a Subaru and a used BMW X5, and paid cash for them and stuff like that. Really, just kept it sensible.
And after you worked at this place where you were generating that kind of income, what was the next move for Paul at this moment? Because what I'm trying to lead up to is, and I'm real excited to lead up to the point where you decided that you want to take a leap into the writing world.
Yeah. So what I didn't leave the other career. I continued doing. What I was aiming for was when you're in a commission-only sales position, you start off every day, every week, every month, every year at zero earnings. And what happened was, after 5 years of doing that, I remember January of the 6th year, this ton of bricks just hit me where I said, oh my God, I've been doing this for 5 years and I'm at zero again. I got to start off at the beginning of the year at zero earnings. So I looked for a way of generating an additional source of income, and was approached by the world of network marketing, and that seemed to me at the time to be a sensible thing to go for. It seemed to have check all the boxes I was looking for: part-time, spare time, build a residual income, leverage, all that good stuff. And I figured with my sales experience that I was going to go in there and just crush it. I just thought, I'm going to walk in there, this big time salesperson, with all my skills, and I'm just going to absolutely own this company. I'm going to be the number one person. I'm going to break every record ever, that kind of stuff.
Right.
And then I got my ass handed to me.
As most of us do when we're first introduced, right?
Absolutely. So I suddenly was like, oh my God, this is a lot different than I thought. And it frustrated the life out of me at first. And then I thought, okay, now I've got two things here. I can either say, you know what, it's not for me. Or I can do like I did 5 years ago. I can totally immerse myself, learn from all the best people, and just, figure this out. So that's what I did. I learned from, and you'll know some of the people, you've had at least one of them on your show, learned from these leaders that had a different skill set, totally different way of doing things, and I basically just did what I did before. I learned some from this guy and some from this woman, and just went to every training, read every book, every CD, video, did everything I could to learn everything I possibly could from all these people that were crushing it, doing way better than I was. And that's what I did, and that helped me turn it around and start to do very well. And then it was interesting. I unfortunately started going through a divorce, and my wife and I had joined this business as a partnership. So we decided to basically for me to walk away from it and let her take it over, and for me to stay out of the business for a year, which is what I did. And that year being out of the business gave me an opportunity to either say, okay, right, when I'm ready to come back, I'm going to come back and go all out into the business, or is there a way of serving people in the business and helping them? So I basically just kind of tested or validated if what I could teach was of any use to people in the business. So again, my expertise is selling or marketing or whatever you want to call it over the telephone. And as you know, network marketers spend an inordinate amount of time on the phone. So what I did was I ended up in England. My father was dying of cancer, and I went over to England and sat next to his bed in a hospital for 3 weeks. And I had nothing to do apart from just sit there with him. And I had my laptop with me. So I started to reach out to people on Facebook and say, hey, do you have any difficulty using the phone while you're in network marketing? And this big flood of people saying, oh my God, I'm scared of it. I talk too much. I don't know what to say. When they say no, I'm crushed. And all this stuff came out. And I thought, okay, well, maybe there's an opportunity here. So I said, okay, maybe let me see if this will help. And I wrote like a proposed chapter. I said, okay, if you're struggling with topic X on the phone, and I just wrote a little report, or whatever, but want of a better word, a report, sent that out into Facebook land to see if it was of any use, and a lot of people said it was very useful. So I wrote a couple more, and then I did a couple of little recordings on my iPhone and said, well, will this work? This was before Periscope or Blab or anything like that. So I just did it on the phone and started getting validation that actually what I was teaching was actually useful and helping people. And I said, well, maybe I could write a book, who knows? And somebody eventually said, write the damn book.
Really?
Yeah. So literally while I'm sat next to my dad's hospital bed with nothing else to do apart from be there for him and my mum, I just had the laptop out and I wrote the book. I just while I'm sat there, 2 o'clock in the morning, 3 o'clock in the morning, whatever, just sat there. He'd wake up, I'd say, okay, Dad, do you need anything? And and then back to sleep. And so that's how I wrote the book.
Wow. So you got validation basically using social media by throwing some information up there that you thought, hey, would this help anybody? And
Absolutely.
then they validated it for you,
Mm-hmm.
which basically told you, hey, there's a need for something like this.
Mm-hmm.
And being the fact that you've generated, over $1.5 million in sales, I mean, obviously you knew you had something, right?
I did, but I didn't know whether anyone would want it
Right.
outside of the office I worked in. So that's why I validated it first. I didn't want to make the mistake of writing this book and then no one wanted it.
Right.
I only wrote it because the final piece of the puzzle was when somebody wrote, write the damn book. So
So here's my question to you. What does one do then at that point where, okay, you typed out, this book, to become an author? I mean, it's not easy to just become a best-selling author. I mean, your book was the #1 bestseller on Amazon.
number 2.
That's not something that comes easy. So, after you typed this up, what was the next step for you? What did you end up doing?
Yeah, this is a great thing with technology nowadays. And again, going back to how I always learn things, when I decided I was going to write the book, then I studied how to self-publish, what to do to help it become a bestseller, went on some seminars, invested in training, just like I've always done. I immersed myself into learning everything I could. And basically, nowadays you can self-publish on Amazon, which is what I did. And, I promoted it in a way that helped it become a bestseller. And so I did that. And then it was kind of interesting what happened next, because I did that and it was almost like, okay, I've written a book. That's another box checked. What next? And it became kind of weird then for me, because people then started writing reviews and texting me or messaging me or Facebooking me or emailing me saying how the book was really helping. And it was kind of weird then, because it went from this hobby to suddenly like a responsibility. And I was like, oh boy, if I'd have written the book and 4 people had bought it, that would have been fine. But now that people are actually reading it and sending and posting pictures on Facebook with the book, or sending me pictures with it and writing reviews, I'm like, oh, this is, it became very hard to describe, but it just was, I don't know, it didn't, I couldn't really handle it at first. Not that I was a big star in any way, shape, or form. I wasn't. But it was like, oh boy, I wrote this thing and people are actually reading it.
Right.
And it's actually helping them. So yeah, it was kind of hard to wrap my head around it, because I didn't expect that at all.
So what are you feeling at this moment? I mean, besides a little overwhelmed, it sounds like. What other? I mean, did you not feel like, hey, I'm actually helping the marketplace, or maybe I should write another book, or like what was going through your mind once you started to realize people were, because I mean, your book has 5-star reviews left and right, people taking pictures. I've seen all that on Amazon. Everything is verified through Amazon, and it's amazing to see how many people you've impacted with this book. So here you are in your mind. Do you feel like, okay, I need to come out with another product to help more people out because you felt like you had more information to give?
It was interesting. I did extremes. So there was times when I thought, okay, yeah, there's a great opportunity here. I could write 5 more books alongside this and build an empire. And then I did the opposite as well. We're going, hold on a minute. I came to America to coach soccer. I'm a soccer guy. What the hell am I doing? Writing a damn book on selling on the telephone. It's nothing what I planned, and it's not sexy, and it's not cool. So I went from one extreme to the other. I'm like, I used to be in the Air Force. My buddies are 747 pilots, or 777 pilots, or fighter pilots, or coaching soccer, and construction workers. And here's me writing a book on how to sell on the phone. So it was really, for 1 minute, I'd get a really nice testimonial or a thank you, and it would inspire me. And the next minute, I'd be like, what am I doing? I never planned to write a book on selling over the phone. So it was interesting. And in England, the culture I was brought up in, we have a saying, don't toot your own horn. So basically, don't promote yourself. Don't, you've got to be the underdog. Be quiet in the background. Don't be like, hey, I'm the greatest thing since sliced bread. Buy my book. So it was very strange for me. So, and then it got even more strange because, again, the theme hopefully you're picking up at is that whenever I do something, I immerse myself into learning everything I can about it. So I went to a seminar called Author 101. I thought, okay, well, let's look if there is a possibility of this being a career or a business here. I've written the book, and let's go to one of these author weekends and see what the hell's going on. So I went. And the fascinating thing was 90% of the crowd, the audience, were hoping to write a book and hoping to get on Amazon. And I'd already done that. And I'm like, wow, I've already done this. Maybe I'm stupid not pursuing it any further. And then I was in the foyer of the hotel, and there was a major publishing firm there. And I had my book in my hand. And I just walked up to the managing director of this publishing firm. And I just handed the book to him and said, hey, this is the book I've written. And I study sales, I study body language, I study all that kind of stuff. And he looked at the book, and this firm gets offered $5,000 a year. They only pick about 150 of them, they said. I gave him the book, and instead of him taking a quick look and handing it back, he kept a hold of it. And I thought, well, that's a good sign. And literally within 5 minutes, he said, I want the book. We're going to do it. And I'm like, oh boy. So anyway, long story short, they ended up offering me a book deal and a contract. And the weird thing is that I got the contract in January, and I never signed it, looked at it. I didn't want anything to do with it at all until I went back to their event again in April. And again, I think there's a term, success sabotage or something, where I've been given a book deal with a major New York publisher. Now it's even more real.
Right.
And now it really is a responsibility. They're telling me they're going to put it in 98% of the bookstore. They want to do an audio version. They want to translate it into Spanish. And I'm like, oh
Holy
boy,
cow.
this book really is real now. So I never signed the contract. It freaked me out.
Really?
Yeah, it did. I was like, again, do I want to be the guy who wrote a book on selling on the phone, So I didn't pursue it, didn't sign the contract. And then eventually in April or May of last year, I did. And then redid the second edition. And you probably saw on Facebook this week, we finally approved the new book cover and all this stuff. So it's going to be in the bookstores this first Tuesday in September. So yeah, but it still feels very weird. And I'm just being honest with you,
Yeah, no, and that's what we want, because a lot of our listeners, what we look for is, first off, your authenticity, the fact that you're being very real with your story, very transparent with your story, because it's an inspiration to a lot of us, to hear the success stories. And everybody wants to know, how did the guy make it to the top? But what we're curious to know, and what we want to share with our listeners, because we have listeners worldwide, it's amazing for us to be able to see the people across the globe that are listening to the podcast, that they're very interested in hearing the success stories, but more importantly, the story on how they got to success. And that's what you're sharing with everybody. So, that's one of the cool things about your story right now, is you went from being a person who was not only just a soccer player, right, who played football, but then went into the coaching world. Then you turned your passion into a business, and then you met, the woman of your dreams, and you moved to LA, and you were hoping to make just $500 a week so you guys can get by, to making, in excess of $1.5 million in commissions, to then, being an author. I mean, think about that. That's an incredible story. And, as we're listening to it, our listeners, I'm sure they can appreciate it. And that's what we want, is, for everybody to understand that, everyone is on a journey, and everybody, has their different struggles. And the thing that I think is the coolest thing is you kind of just accidentally fell into being an author, a best-selling author on Amazon, and now you're actually with a publishing company who's now releasing a second edition, and I'm assuming that you have more books in the pipeline.
Yeah, I do. When I sit down and write, I really enjoy doing it. So I do. I have at least 3 or 4 more. I've written 2 more, but I haven't done anything with them yet. So yeah, there could be a whole career here. I'm still, just going along with a ride right now. But I think the main point to kind of put across to your listeners, and I didn't mention it with the soccer coaching, but it's the same exact methodology and I'm just kind of realizing this now we're talking about it. But when I decided I wanted to go into soccer coaching, I did the entry level coaching course, 2 weekends kind of thing. And then I thought, okay, I'm going to do this. So I went all in. There was the guy who ran the course, he played 750 games as a professional soccer player. So I said to him, can I volunteer on every single course that you do? And he said, why would you want to do that? I said, because I want to suck everything, all the knowledge, I want to learn as much as I can about coaching. Because I was a decent player, I wasn't as good as him, clearly. So at weekends, I would travel all around the northwest of England. Wherever he was putting on a clinic, I was the guy who would set the cones out, pick up the balls, hand out the bibs, get the water, just so I could be next to him with my notepad learning from him. He then recommended me to the local pro club that he played for 20 years, and I coached there in the summer soccer school. And he got me the agent. It was his agent that got me the gig out here in the US. On top of that, every possible coaching clinic there was, I went to, paid for, weekends away, books, DVDs, whatever. So I totally immersed myself. And then when I came to the States, I did the same. I got the highest coaching qualification you can get for both organizations, the USSFA license and the NSCAA Premier Diploma. So whenever I go for things, I'm just kind of realizing this, I go all out for them. So I did everything I could to learn from coaches, learn the theory, learn everything behind it. So I did that for coaching. Then when I went into sales, as I mentioned earlier, I went into the office where people were being successful, and I learned from everybody in there. And I built a library of, if you came in my apartment now, all the classic sales books and mindset books and The Secret, and totally immersed myself into that. And then when I decided I wanted to publish the book, did the same thing. I learned how to publish, learned how to write, learned how to market the book, and I'm continuing to do that now. So I guess the point I wanted to put across to the listeners is whatever you decide you want to do, you've got to go all out, and you've got to study it and find mentors and just 100% commit to it. Otherwise, it's not going to work out.
That is incredible, because the reality is, as we were listening to you, tell us your story, we realized, man, this guy's always seeking mentorship, or he's surrounding himself around, people who are successful in his industries, and this is who he's learning from. And you never stop being a student. And to this day, you're still a student, correct? Because you're still learning. Every
day I'm either on a webinar, a seminar, or a conference call, a book, a video, a DVD, a YouTube. Every single day I'm studying.
What kind of advice do you have for anybody out there who's maybe pursuing possibly writing a book? I mean, someone who maybe wants to be an author, or maybe someone who wants to get into the sales force, or maybe someone who wants to pursue their passion like you did at one point, and maybe be either a coach or a soccer player or some kind of a sport player, an athlete who wants to, pursue his passion. What kind of advice would someone who's had your success and your background, being the fact that you've had success in different areas in your life and in different industries in your life, what kind of advice would you give to anybody out there who wants to pursue their dream, whether it be an author, a sales the top network marketer, the top or the top athlete in their industry.
Well, I take the advice from a little green dude that's 700 years old. I think he's called Yoda. And he says, it's either do or not do. There's no such thing as try.
Very nice.
So yeah, I think when I used to, I had a couple of Facebook groups where I coached people, and I banned the word try. That wasn't allowed in my soccer program. The word try wasn't allowed. So really, doesn't matter what it is. If you decide that you want to be a better golfer, or you want to be a better dad, or you want to write a book, you don't try. You either do it and you go all out 100% and learn and get mentors and be a sponge and commit 100% to it, or don't bother. Don't try and write a book. Don't try and be a good dad. Don't try and be a good husband. Just do it or don't do it.
Ooh, that's a nugget for all our listeners out there. So everyone knows out there, the name of the book that's a top bestseller in Amazon is From Hello to Yes in 3 Minutes or Less. How to overcome that fear of picking up the phone and basically calling anybody. It's a great book, and and where can they find it besides on Amazon?
Right now, it's just on Amazon and Kindle. Actually, it's in other bookstores, I believe, but the easiest way is if you just go to Amazon and just type in From Hello to Yes, it'll pop up, and you can get the paperback version, or you can get the Kindle version. If you're Amazon Prime customer, you get Kindle for free, so that's easy enough. Just press a couple of buttons and it's on your phone. Or if you can go on Amazon and within 2 days it'll be at your house.
So it doesn't matter if you're in sales or network marketing, or you just period. If you're looking for any good information, this is a great book to have in your library. Any other books that you have out, Paul?
There's a book that came out the same day. It's called the 30-Day Business Builder book, and it basically takes all the theory from the first book and it puts it into a 30-day program. So you can basically, if you bought both books, you would read the From Hello to Yes in 3 Minutes or Less book first. And then immediately you pull out the second book and you go to day one, and it will give you 30 consecutive days of little exercises to put the theory of the first book into play.
Wow. I mean, you think about that. That's very unique what you were able to do for, your students. The people who have bought this book have the opportunity not only to read, like you said, the theory, but you actually gave them a game plan for 30 days, and that's pretty cool. Not a lot of people who are in the industry of, like the Zig Ziglars, they don't put a how-to or a 30-day game plan kind of book, and you did, and that's very unique because you were able to bring something different, and that's what separates you from a lot of the authors is you're giving back so much. Not only by writing the book, but now also writing a second book that gives them a 30-day game plan so that they can actually follow through and have success.
Well, I wanted both books to become self-help as opposed to shelf-help.
That's good.
Yeah, because we've all got them where we read the book and we go, oh man, this is the book, this is the one, this is what this is going to change everything, and you put it on the shelf and it's there a month later. And
collecting dust, right?
Yes, exactly. So, but yeah, the book, the book's useful if you're not in network marketing, but you're a small business owner, or a realtor, or a financial advisor, or anyone who has to talk to the public on the telephone. It's useful for that because what my realization is more and more is that, you'll know this, Pablo, you go online, you open up your email, and everyone's trying to sell you the latest marketing shiny object, the latest lead generation technique, and the latest ninja tactic for getting customers. But my reason is that you could be getting the most leads in the world, you could have this amazing system, but if when you pick up the phone to call those leads, if you suck, there's no point. Exactly. Why get those leads and then not either be scared of picking up the phone and calling them, or when you call them, you're horrible. And I'm saying that with love.
Of course.
But, so my theory is, and I'm biased at this, obviously, you're much better working on your skills over the phone than working on skills and generating leads. That's my theory.
And I agree with that theory. So, Paul, how can people connect with you? As our listeners are out there listening, how can they connect with Paul?
My website is my name, so paulgwalmsley.com. So PAULG, and then Walmsley is WALMSLEY. So easy as that. paulgwalmsley.com.
Are you on Facebook, Twitter?
Yep. Paul G. Walmsley on Twitter, LinkedIn, Facebook.
Perfect. A website and a website for the book specifically?
Yeah, if you could put from hello to yes in 3 minutes or less.com, but just easy, just keep it simple. Just go to paulgwalmsley.com. Funnily enough, I trademarked that term this week, and also in the book I have a catchphrase, and the catchphrase is "Then shut the hell up," and I managed to trademark that this week as well. So that's kind of cool.
That is very cool. Well, Paul, you know what? It's been a pleasure hearing your story. I know our listeners probably picked up a lot of nuggets, and they're probably now thinking about their passion and maybe how they can possibly either turn it into a business or pursue it, just period, because your story actually has, encouraged me to want to pursue my passion. I love to cook. Maybe I may pursue, being a chef. That's something that I enjoy doing, But I know that our listeners out there are constantly, listening to all our guests, and they love the information. They love the authenticity. And I know you're a very busy man, and you're coaching a lot of people and you're helping a lot of people. So I from the bottom of my heart, Paul, I want to just say thank you for taking the time to share your story and for giving us some nuggets.
Well, thanks again, Pablo and Omaro. Thank you for doing this for your community as well, for your listeners around the world. Again, you're busy, you're taking time as well. I appreciate the chance to pass on my story and promote my business. And again, if anybody needs any help at all, just go to my website or send me an email. My email address is the same, paul@paulgwalmsley.com, so it's easy to remember. And thanks again, Pablo. Thanks again, Omaro.
Awesome. Thank you so much.
All right, cheers.
Have a good night.
And you. Bye-bye.